Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Galeriot here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Memoria Freese video, and welcome to the Shiryu Summon for the Astrea Record Part 3 Rerun Gotcha banner, as well as the EX Gotcha banner. We have 3 banners to go over. This is not going to be a short video. I will try my very hardest to make this as fast as possible while also being very clear cut on what I believe about these banners and whether or not you should summon on them. But this is going to be a long video. I can feel it in my bones. So of course, if you guys go on to enjoy this video nonetheless, please be sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for more Danmachi content as well as Danmachi Memoria Freeze content. We do everything here, and leave a comment down below as well letting me know what you guys think about these units, their buffs that they received, and of course if you're going to be summoning for them. I'm very curious to see if you guys are planning on summoning for them, or are you guys going to wait till the Lyra assist that will drop tomorrow. Check out the data mine video I dropped earlier on. It goes over into detail about the Lyra and stuff, so be sure to check that out. But yes, we have the 3 banners live right now in the game. That is Justice Roar, Justice Desire, and Cornerstone. So let's start off with Justice Roar first and foremost. Let's go over this banner because in my personal opinion, while the Otaro and Ryu are somewhat decent, I think the main star of this banner is the man in the top right. That Alan is insanely good. Let's go over the details, shall we? So first and foremost, let's go over Ryu, and then we'll go bit by bit, and then we can hit up Alan for sure, because Alan is a very interesting unit, like I said. So this Ryu, right, wind magic unit, good magic. Wait, actually, they hang on a second. They didn't adjust it at all. So this was something that I made sure to point out in the buffs video a couple of days ago when we got the buffs for these units, right? Is that they increased the magic stat in the passive skill from 25 to 40% for magic, endurance, agility, and dexterity. The only issue is, right, the magic hasn't gone up at all. In the page itself, the website that we looked at, right, the news page, I should say, it was 1992 before the update, and it's still 1992. They've buffed up everything else very nicely. It's just the magic hasn't gone up, which is very confusing to me because the magic should have also gone up. So I don't know if it's an error or it's something that they forgot to change or something like that. I don't know. Either way, that is an issue. I don't know if it's something that they're gonna fix or not. I have no idea. So it's something that we'll have to keep an eye out. Maybe they might put a notice in the news page. Maybe you guys can contact support and let them know that way. I'll probably send in one as well potentially. You guys can let them know that, wait, well, there is an error here. You know, what's going on? What's cooking here, you know? So yeah, either way, this Ryu is very much an AoE wind magic attack unit. You're going to be using her in PvE stages that have multiple enemies, or you're going to be using her in war games. Now, the only thing about her being used in war games is I'm not sure how exactly she'll be used. Okay. I can no, this is something we already knew about it. For some reason I thought I don't remember this, but no. Even though her skill, right? The thing is, in war games, right? I've spoken about it many a times. When you're facing off against units like Vesta, Bell, and Ryu, units that are running rampant and are slow units that can basically strip away your agility buffs at the end of the turn, what is the use of having a agility buffer for the whole party in the form of Ryu, who, yes, allies slow, magic, agility, dexterity buff, but it's gonna get stripped because this skill will go before Vesta goes, or even before, you know, Bell and Ryu goes in front. So to me, this is a little bit iffy in all honesty. I do like the wind attack damage plus 70% as well as the additional actions. That makes it a little bit more modern for sure. And then if you look at the second skill as well, right? I like the introduction of the wind res down for sure. Very, very nice. But then why is it allies wind attack damage plus 50%? You're giving yourself wind attack damage plus 70%. The problem is that this Ryu is trying to be like a support unit, but also an offensive unit at the same time by giving herself the wind attack damage plus 70%. While it is nice that she is giving allies wind attack damage as well, I think they could have just removed that entirely and made it something else and made it much, much better for the general party. Heck, it could have been probably an agility buff of 50% on turn 2, and I think everybody would have been much, much happier about that than what we've gotten here. So it's a little bit weird in that regards. I personally don't see her being utilized that much in all honesty. And finally, the third skill, a super wind magic attack with temporary grade magic boost and ultra critical rate and status debuff plus 2 turns. I love the other two buffs that she gives herself at the end, the ultra critical rate and status debuff plus 2 turns. Very, very nice. And the super modifier, good, very good. Thumbs up on that. Why is it a temporary grade magic boost? If you look at all the other units that we have received in this update, the buffs that we have received in this update, Otarl, Elise, who else is there? Finn, of course, right? Finn, Althea, Zard, all of them have a damage boost modifier per certain buff. So, for example, Elise is like 80% per magic buff. Otarl, as you guys can see here, 40% per strength and earth attack damage buff skill. Why didn't they give that to Ryu? Because the issue is, right, if I'm not mistaken, I actually had a look at this. Amphi sent me a DM with the list of the original buffs, the original modifiers and the percentages, the original calculations. This was from like a couple of years ago. And I know that a temporary magic boost now on a single target skill is 40%, which means that a great magic boost is probably around 80%. Why not make that, at least like say 50% per magic buff or 50% per wind attack damage buff? I think that would have been better than potentially temporary grade magic boost. So to me personally, I think this is something that they could have made better. I do like the special arts a little bit. Initially, I wasn't too sure about it because again, it's missing the damage boost per buff basically, or debuff depending on how they would go about it. And the 120% wind attack damage boost was nice in theory. In retrospect, I was kind of hoping that it would do maybe also like 120% magic or something, but then I thought more about it and I was like, well, if you're going to be running a unit like say Haruhime, right, for example, as a support unit to give yourself a 120% magic buff, you're not going to really need it on this. Maybe they could have probably given like wind res down minus 60% or something similar to the Bell and Ryu unit. Again, once again, I'm using them as an example here. So yeah, for me, Ryu, while decent, I think she's a very skippable unit in all honesty. I'm very curious to see what others would have to say about her. I don't think she'll be used in the main meta magic team, to be honest, right now. Right now, the main magic meta team is significantly different to what this Ryu will be cohesive with, in all honesty. She can work, it's just that there are better units that will work better with that magic team. So for me, this Ryu is very much a skippable unit. Otarl, on the other hand, has improved a little bit for sure. I generally like what they've done with him overall. The modifiers that they've given him, the 50% per each strength and earth attack damage buff skill, means he's got a 200% damage modifier. He's giving himself some decent buffs. You're not going to necessarily use his second skill. This is something somebody commented on my video on Tuesday. Amphi actually was the one who commented on Tuesday on the buffs video, mentioning that nobody would use the second skill anyways, and I could see what he was saying. Obviously, it's not something you'd want to use anyways. You're probably going to go from skill 1 into skill 3 no matter what. The only issue with Otarl, right, they've done a fantastic job, like I said, with the damage modifiers, the buffs he gives himself, the buffs he gives in his special arts as well. Fantastic. The only issue I have is that he still has this really bad passive skill where the lower HP he has, the more counter damage he gets, basically. So effectively, you would have to be at low HP at all times to be able to maximize the counter damage. Otherwise, he's gonna hit like a wet noodle on his counters. Now, I'm very curious to see if the stats changes and the modifiers and everything adjusting has maybe improved him. But of course, that's somebody for who has him at +5. They can test it out for us. But yeah, this is something that I'm still not a fan of, because you're going to be at max HP more often than not. If you're going to be running, say, for example, a Lazar, a Wine, a Haruhime, one of those units that is capable of healing a unit, right? And you're going to be at max HP more often than not. Or, say, for example, you're going to be using STR and Magic minus 45%, and then you have a unit that gives P-Res and M-Res to the rest of your characters, your allies. Well, you're going to be running into an issue where the opponent is not going to do any damage whatsoever. The Record Buster opponent or the, Familiar Rush opponent, whoever it may be, they're not going to deal enough damage for you to go down to a point where your counter damage actually does a significant amount. He's going to hit like a wet noodle on his counters, and that's going to be lost damage. So it's something for players to consider when, drafting a Earth single target team. is, are there better options? I mean, we know that there's Earth Lazar, Earth Lafia, right? And maybe you could throw in a couple of more units there, potentially. Maybe some AoE options that could be better than this Utarl. But yeah, I mean, he's still an option nonetheless, and I think people will still want to use him for sure. Now, this Allen, on the other hand, I mean, this guy is a monster. I think this guy is, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be blaming you if you decided to summon on this banner only for this guy. But the thing is, I would also kind of say you're making the wrong decision, because the chances of you getting this guy is like, actually, it's not even 1 in 3. Yeah, it is a 1 in 3 chance, actually. Technically, it's a 1 in 3 chance of you getting this Allen. But yeah, it's just generally you're gonna get the adventurers more so because they're 2% rate. This Allen will be at a 1% rate alone, right? But this Allen is really good. He is basically like the 5th anniversary Ryulu, right? And effectively what he does differently in comparison to that Ryulu is, well, he one gives himself critical rate and penetration rate rather than debuffing the opponent's penetration rate, and he doesn't have any instant effects. But the main critical thing that this Allen has over the Ryulu is the fact that he gives himself 650 agility off base. Mind you, this is without CP levels. With CP levels, that agility goes up to like 750 or so. He is the fastest assist stat unit in this game when it comes to agility. It is insanely strong, in all honesty. Now, the thing is, like I said, unless you're already close to like +5, you've, previously summoned for him and he's close to +5, going on this banner is a very risky thing, because like I said, Ryu isn't a fantastic unit. Otarl is decent, but again, very much replaceable, in all honesty. Allen is the only one I would probably go for. And even then, I'd probably question you, because one, with him also getting a -20% agility debuff, I should say, just like Ryulu, indicates that there is a very good chance that we could be getting a -25% agility unit in the near future. So why go for him when that is around the corner potentially? Because, I mean, if you're giving an older unit a buff like that, there is a good chance that means you're replacing them very, very soon. So for me, I would say this banner is a bit of a skip. Unless you have Allen at like +3 or +4, then go for him, try and get him, and then maybe you can get the free bond from the tail. Remember, there is a free copy you can get from the tail of any of the Astrea Record characters, so you might want to consider that for this Allen. Now, let's move on to this banner with Finn, Alize, and Freya, Justice Desire. Now, this is a very interesting banner because I like Alize. I love Alize. I remember using this Alize a lot, and in all honesty, I think they've done her okay. She's not insane. They've made her a little bit more of a stall unit, if anything, which is kind of weird to say, to be quite honest, because she was never a stall unit, in all honesty. She was like part of the full-on rush team. But what she does on her special arts is something very similar to the other units. She gives herself magic and fire attack damage plus 90%, and gives herself additional attacks of 4 additional attacks, that is, of high fire magic attack and HP heal 30% of damage on foes, which is again an indication of her becoming a sort of like stall team, because what she's doing is she's basically life stealing on her abilities, and you'll see that happening throughout her kit as well. Her first skill has expanded quite a bit. Originally, if I recall correctly, it was just an additional action of low fire magic attacks, as well as the damage increase from AoE attacks by 30%, I think. Now it is improved to 35%, the damage increase by AoE attacks. But also on top of that, she gives herself damage received, attack type, all and single targets -60%. So she's taking effectively a lot less damage than what she originally was taking, which will make her a very interesting option for maybe sort of like a magic stall team potentially, with the likes of Hero Festa Ryu, this Alize. I don't know, there could be something going on there, there could be something going on there. And her additional actions have now converted from low fire magic attack to mid fire magic attack, and HP heal 20% of damage on foes. Flaming Edge has gone from basically actually Flaming Edge has stayed the exact same. The only change that they've done here primarily is they've added the magic res down, which is kind of nice. Crimson Libra, like I said, unlike Ryu, they decided to give her a damage modifier, which will make her a decent option in PvE contents for sure. Overall, decent buffs, nothing too crazy. I'm curious to see how she'll operate. I have her at +5, so I might make a video or two using her in maybe like War Games trial mode or something like that. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Finn, on the other hand, is a very interesting unit because this guy was at a point one of the best options for like a wind physical rush team, effectively with Radari, Anakiri, and a couple of others, right? And now I do think you could probably still use him. I mean, he gives wind res minus 40%. He gives allies STR agility and penetration rate. Now, I think the penetration rate is something they added and they boosted the stats from 30 to 40%, which is nice. And generally speaking, Legion Slayer has not changed drastically. The only change that they made here is the damage received. Well, from the original one, that is now outside of the all the -3 turns he's giving to all the resistances and all that jazz. He also removes the damage received attack type all targets reduction effect by 3 turns, which allows you to basically strip away any sort of stall team effort. The only issue is, right, a lot of the stall teams now have a sort of like, what's it called? They have a 5 turn, 6 turn effect. And this is only -3 turns, which makes it kind of irrelevant in a way. I think if they had buffed this up to at least 4 turns or 5 turns, I think this guy would have been a much better option. But that is something that he has going for him, I suppose. And here we have Storm Javelin, a single target high wind physical attack damage plus 80% per each self STR buff skill, and skill effect that increases damage received attack type single target. Wait a second, sorry. So is that a 240% buff? No, this has been added. I don't remember reading this. Oh. No. Wait, is this a 320% buff? Hang on. So 80% per STR buff skill and skill effect that increases damage received attack type single target. Is that on? No, it's on self. I'm so confused. So wait, I think it's 160 base, but it can go up to 320% if there is an enemy that induces that effect of where, they increase the damage received attack type single target on Finn. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Okay, so technically it can be 320%, but more often than not, in most situations, you'll only see 160%. So kind of weird in that regards. I expect maybe the next Familia Royale may have this sort of effect. Maybe, I don't know. This is really weird. Either way, Finn is a very weird unit. Let's talk about Freya now. Freya, I think, got one of the best buffs out of the lot, in all honesty, in a ridiculously decent buff. Because originally all she did was she gave counter rate and she reduced the foe's counter rate, critical rate, penetration rate, and god rate by 10%. Now she gives M-res and charm res, and they boosted up the debuff from 10% to 20%. I think that's a good buff overall for Freya, especially now that we're in a sort of like magic meta. It kind of can help out tremendously, and especially if you're going up against PvE content that's kind of difficult, you could make an argument and say that running this Freya wouldn't be amiss if you're struggling with like, magic enemies or something like that. So that is something to consider. In terms of whether or not you should summon on this banner, I think this is probably the banner you should skip the most, in all honesty. I do think the Elise is decent in her own right. I think the Finn is also okay-ish. That last skill confused the hell out of me, and Freya is an alright assist. But in terms of the other 2 banners, I mean, I think the other 2 banners are higher value, in all honesty, especially with Alan being there. Alan automatically makes this banner higher. I do think that you can make an argument and say that the Adventurers of Justice Desire are better than the Justice Roar banner, but I think the value of Alan as an assist is far superior in comparison to Elise and Finn. So that is something to consider. That being said, though, I do think this is probably the best banner to summon on, in all honesty. If you have to summon on any of these banners, I think Cornerstone is probably one of the best banners to go for, primarily because of 2 reasons: Althea and Erebus. Zard has improved drastically. We'll come on to him in just a moment. But Althea and I think Erebus are primarily the ones we should look at. But since Zard is on the left, we'll start off with Zard, shall we? Alright, Zard, I think, has improved drastically. At a point, I don't think there was a good Zard to use at all. Every time we got a Zard, which, to be fair, is only 2 times, we would probably look at him, maybe use him like a couple of times and then be like, what have they done with him, kind of thing. But now I would genuinely say that they've made him a very solid unit, in all honesty. So his special arts has gotten a boost to his damage modifier, so it's now 80% per each STR buff skill, and they've increased the debuff from 50% to 60%, making him a modern unit, which is good. But what his best parts and his improvements come into play is his actual skills. So skill 1 has gone from basically being a 30% taunt to a 50% taunt. So if you're running an ailment team, you're living, this Zard is going to improve drastically. And now he also gives himself an KO avoidance, which is fantastic. I think that's going to be helpful so much for, ailment teams, because one of the problems with the ailment team is, right, they are able to effectively, inflict us with ailments, the opponent teams with ailments. But the problem is, if they get hit once, they're dead. So the fact that this Zard gets a KO avoidance will be actually tremendous for that sort of team. So if you're running ailment, Zard is actually an insane option, in all honesty. You could make an argument and say that. He also gives himself 3 additional actions of mid-light physical attack, and gives himself 30% HP heal, and he'll strip away fire, water, thunder, earth, and wind attack damage buffs on foes, which is, again, really decent if you're able to make Zard survive till turn 2, in all honesty. Especially in war games, truly going to be special. Absolute Strange has also improved a little bit here and there. He gives himself light attack damage now as well, which is a thumbs up. And I think the P-Res and M-Res have increased in their debuff by 5%, so nothing too crazy. And the last skill has also improved just a little bit to make him a little bit more usable for, PvE situations, Record Buster, stuff like that. So that's good and all. Althea is a unit that I was very much looking forward to. Even though I have her only at +0, I think this Althea is a menace, in all honesty. Yeah. So I was very curious to see how they were going to improve her, because I say she is a menace. She was a menace once upon a time ago, and she still can be a menace, provided that she is on a cohesive team going up against a very broken team potentially, or even just generally a team that is incapable of managing to deal with the light magic team. But like I said, I think she's been improved a little bit. Nothing too crazy. I think the fact that they've given her that 100% null M attack on additional actions is going to help her a little bit against, the magic teams that she's going to be opposing potentially now, with, them running amok in war games and stuff. And also on top of that, she also is able to now debuff the opponent's agility by 40%, which is very interesting to say the least, because in all honesty, I wasn't exactly sure how it would come into play, because this is a turn 2 ability effectively, right? You're going to be using this AoE attack on turn 2, unless maybe you go attack all for her, which is not something you want to do. You'll want to go for buff. So it is kind of weird in that regards, but I'm very curious to see how it'll come into play. It's going to be very interesting to see how, other players will try her out, because I only have her at +0, unfortunately, so I can't even test her out. I'm sad to say that. And I don't have a good light team as well. That's another problem. Light magic team. I have a good light physical team. Light magic team is the issue. But her single target skill has also improved just a little bit, makes her a little bit more usable. So thumbs up on that. Now, Erebus is a unit that I was looking forward to the most, because, well, I don't have Argonaut at +5, nor do I have Erebus at +5, but Erebus is at +3. So for me, if this guy got a decent buff, I would love to summon for him. And he did get a decent buff, I think. He didn't get a crazy buff, but he got a decent buff in my personal opinion. So his main stat is, of course, dexterity, 570 over there, but he also reduces the opponent's life res by 20%. They've just added critical rate and penetration rate as the debuff, and they've changed the buff, the strength and magic buff, from 20% to 25%, and also added dexterity. I think this guy will probably be a little bit better for maybe game modes like Record Buster and PvE content, whereas Argonaut might be just a better unit for war games, in all honesty, and for, of course, a light and thunder hybrid team probably. So there is that factor. I'm very curious to see how you guys would rate this Erebus's buff. I don't think it's a huge buff for sure, right? If they wanted to go crazy, give him 25% down light res. Honestly, would have been insane. I am going to go for him, though, because I actually need him. Because right now, that is one of my major issues in Record Buster, is my lack of a good light res down assist. and this Erebus being around is the perfect opportunity for me to go get him. So we're gonna do 2 multis. I'm gonna go to the guaranteed. Hopefully I get Erebus, because then I can just get one more copy from the free tail bond that we are getting, right? Because I have him at +3. Get one bond here, get one bond from the tail. I'm good to go. So let's see what we do, what we get here. Because I want to save some Iris for, of course, well, one, the future Hero Festa, but also potentially tomorrow's Lyra banner. You know, if she's an actually really good assist, I might have to go for her. You know, Lafia is also still around, and I'm still deliberating whether or not I should go for her. You know, and so there's a lot of banners in and around that I'm really considering going for. And not to mention, remember, these aren't the final Astrea Record banners. There is going to be more Astrea Record banners coming out in the next month. We have the reruns of the light novel releases. So the new Alize, the light Alize, the Wind Ardi, the Thunder Lyra, Dark Kaguya, Astrea Erebus, they all will be getting reruns in the next month. On top of that, we are still going to be getting potentially buffs and the rerun for the 4th anniversary of Fia and Zard as well. The ones that released right before the 4th anniversary, I should say. So there are still a lot of units to come and a lot of banners to go over. So I'm trying to be as secure and as frugal with my Iris as I can be, but I do need this Erebus. I will admit, I do need this Erebus. So fingers crossed we get this Erebus. Hopefully it's not gonna be a pain in the rear. Fingers crossed. Let's see if we get him. The first multi was a complete dud. It was a min roll. You love to see it, of course. You really do love to see it. But hopefully this one, I mean, it's looking like a min roll so far. I haven't gotten the 3-star yet, so hopefully the 4-star will clutch up and it's just Erebus. For the love of God, just please be Erebus, man. I beg of you. I for some reason, no, this is Zard, isn't it? Yeah, it's Zard. I don't know what my Zard is at, but it's not what I wanted. It's not really what I wanted. He's only +1 as well. Ugh. Ah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm gonna deliberate over it. We still have time for this banner. It's live until the 8th of March. I'm going to think about it, and then I'll see if I want to keep going back in to just try and get that final Erebus. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the video down below in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of the banners themselves. Actually, did you summon or not? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video for the Lyra summons, probably, maybe, who knows, the should you summon at least. There will be a should you summon at the very least. Maybe it might turn into summons, we'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye everybody.